Every server at the upscale restaurant dreaded waiting on the famously rude Keanu Reeves, whose impossible demands and cold attitude had driven staff to tears. But when a fearless new waitress took his table, she refused to be intimidated and confronted him with unexpected honesty. What started as a tense showdown turned into a shocking revelation that changed how everyone saw him and themselves forever. That night in the restaurant still lives in my chest like it happened yesterday. It started with a single name on the reservation screen that turned a normal dinner shift into a storm none of us were ready for. The place was already humming when I walked in, that soft roar of clinking glasses, low conversations, and the piano player in the corner trying to sound like he wasn't working for tips. Our restaurant sat on a glittering street in downtown Los Angeles, where every second guest thought they were more important than the last. But there was only one customer who could freeze the entire staff in their tracks with just a booking: Keanu Reeves. Not the gentle internet legend people post memes about, not the quiet subway rider or humble star from talk shows. The man we knew was different. He never smiled, never said please. He sent food back 3 times without touching it, snapped his fingers when he wanted something, and once made a hostess cry so hard her mascara stained the menus. Maybe it was the pressure, maybe it was something darker. We didn't know. We just called him the storm behind his back and avoided his table like it was cursed. I was refilling coffee when I heard the quiet gasp from the hostess stand. "Daniel, look." On the screen in clean black letters, KEANUREVES, 7:30 p.m., table 17. The word spread through the staff like a rumor in high school. Cooks leaned out of the kitchen, servers traded nervous looks, even the bartender polished a single glass for way too long. Our manager, Victor, pushed his glasses up his nose and stared at the screen like if he blinked, the name might disappear. "It's probably his people," one of the waiters muttered. "Maybe he won't show." "He always shows," I said, surprising myself with how tired my voice sounded. That's when I noticed the new girl wiping down an empty table with small, careful circles. She started only 3 days ago, and this was her first full shift on the floor. Her name was Maya. Ponytail pulled back tight, cheap sneakers polished like they were high heels, sleeves rolled up just enough to show a thin bracelet on her wrist. She was watching us, not like she was scared, but like she was trying to understand what invisible monster had just walked into the room. "Why is everyone acting like there's a fire drill?" she asked me as I walked by. I forced a smile. "You picked an interesting night for your first real shift, that's all." She raised an eyebrow. "Because of the celebrity." "Because of that celebrity," I said, nodding at the screen. She followed my gaze, reading the name. Her eyes widened slightly. "Isn't he supposed to be, I don't know, the nice one?" "That's the internet," I replied. "This is real life." She didn't answer right away. There was something in her expression, a flicker of stubbornness under the nerves. I'd seen that look before, but not in this restaurant. That was the look of someone who'd been through harder things than rude customers and overpriced food. We only had a minute before the rush hit. As we rolled silverware, I finally asked, "You worked in restaurants before this?" She shook her head. "First time, back home I worked in my uncle's garage and at a grocery store at night, and pretty much anywhere that would pay cash." "Back home, small town, 4 buses and a dirt road," she said, a little smile tugging at her lips. "I came here because I promised my mom I'd send money. This job is step 1. The way she said it, like failure wasn't an option, lodged in my throat. I thought of my own reasons for staying in that job: bills, rent, the quiet fear of not being good at anything else. But her reasons sounded heavier. Like every tray she carried had someone else's heartbeat on it. At 7:25, the restaurant shifted. It was subtle, but you could feel it. People straightened their ties. Voices dipped a little lower. Victor walked over to table 17 himself, checking the cutlery and the angle of the wine glasses like the fate of the universe depended on it. Then the door opened. He walked in alone, hands in the pockets of a black coat that looked more expensive than my car. The hostesses stood a little taller, trying not to stare. There was something strange about him up close. He didn't walk like a king expecting the world to bow. He walked like someone who wanted the world to stop looking at him, but knew it never would. From where I stood, polishing the same fork for the 10th time, I could see his face clearly. The lines around his eyes, the weight in his shoulders. He glanced around once, and in that quick sweep of the room, his gaze brushed past me. For a second, his eyes looked less like stone and more like someone standing on the edge of a cliff, pretending not to be afraid. Then the mask slid back into place. Victor intercepted him with a nervous smile. "Mr. Reeves, welcome back. We're honored you chose us again." Keanu nodded without returning the smile. "Just sit me," he said, voice low, already sounding irritated. "I don't have all night." The staff scattered like pigeons. Nobody wanted to be the one near table 17 when the storm hit. I felt my feet move backward almost on their own. My last memory of serving him was a plate of pasta dumped on the floor and his voice, cold as ice, saying, "If you can't follow simple instructions, you're in the wrong job." Victor cleared his throat. "All right, everyone, who's taking 17 tonight?" Silence. You could hear the ice machine in the bar. One of the waiters suddenly remembered he had to check on a patio table that didn't exist. Victor's eyes landed on me. "Daniel, you've served him before. You know his preferences." My chest tightened. "Victor, I've got 3 big tables already. If I take 17, everyone else will be waiting longer. You know how that goes." It wasn't a straight lie, but we both knew it was a shield. Before he could push harder, a soft voice cut through the tension. "I can take him." Every head turned. Maya stood there, order pad in hand, apron slightly crooked, but her chin was lifted. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but also something else. A stubborn calm, like she'd already decided who she wanted to be before this night even started. Victor stared at her. "Maya, no, this guest is complicated. You're new. It's too much pressure." She swallowed once. "If someone has to serve him, it might as well be me. I need to learn, right?" Her voice didn't quite hide the tremor on that last word, but she didn't back down. "You don't understand," one of the older servers whispered. He's brutal. He made Carla quit, remember?" Maya looked at each of us in turn, taking in our fear. "He's still just a person sitting at a table," she said quietly. "I've dealt with people screaming in hospital hallways and bosses throwing wrenches in garages. If he's rude, he's rude. I still have to pay rent." I caught her eye. "You don't have to prove anything tonight," I said. I'm not sure if I was trying to protect her or protect the tiny piece of hope I felt when she spoke. She gave me a small, crooked smile. "Maybe I'm not trying to prove something," she replied. "Maybe I'm just tired of watching everyone be scared of one man." Victor rubbed his temples, defeated. "Fine, but I'm assigning Daniel as your backup. Any problem you call him, understood." She nodded once, then turned toward table 17. I watched her walk across the room, weaving between chairs and candle-lit tables, each step carrying more weight than the last. From behind, she still looked like the new girl, slightly stiff, adjusting to the rhythm of the floor. But there was a steadiness in her shoulders, a quiet promise to herself that none of us could hear. Keanu sat alone, scrolling through his phone, jaw clenched. As Maya approached, he looked up, eyes sharp and already impatient, like he'd been waiting for an excuse to be angry. She stopped at the edge of the table, took a breath I could see even from across the room, and opened her mouth to speak. And in that split second, before a single word left her lips, he said something that made every muscle in her face change. "What's taking you so long?" Those were the first words out of his mouth. Not hello, not good evening. Just that flat, sharp question that sliced through the little smile Maya had prepared. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't step back. I just got here, sir," she said, voice steady. "My name is Maya. I'll be taking care of you tonight." He shut the menu halfway, eyes narrowing like he was already annoyed by the sound of her name. "Don't try to be charming. Just write down what I say and don't talk unless I ask you something." The words weren't shouted, but they were precise, like a knife pushed in just far enough to hurt. From across the room, I watched the change in her face. The softness left first, then the nervousness. What was left wasn't anger. It was a kind of quiet decision, as if she'd just chosen who she was going to be for the rest of the night. Her fingers tightened around the small order pad, knuckles whitening, but her voice when she answered was almost gentle. "With respect, sir," she said, "talking is part of my job, so is listening." The air around table 17 seemed to crystallize. A couple at the next table glanced over, sensing the tension building like static before a storm. In the kitchen doorway, one of the line cooks paused mid-step, a plate of risotto in his hands, eyes locked on the scene unfolding. Keanu's jaw twitched like he wasn't used to anyone pushing back. "You listening?" he repeated. "Good, then hear this. I want the spring salad, no dressing, no croutons, no onions, no tomatoes, just greens, washed twice, dried, room temperature, not cold from the fridge, and the steak, medium rare, no pepper, no rosemary, no butter, no creativity, just meat, salt, heat, water for the table, no ice, lemon slice, fresh, not from a bottle." Maya scribbled, her hand moving faster than his words. When he finally stopped, she lifted her eyes from the pad. "I can do most of that," she said, "but there are a couple of things I need to check with the kitchen." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "You people always need to check with the kitchen. I've been here before. They can do it exactly how I want. Get someone who knows what they're doing." I felt my stomach clench. This was usually the moment when a server apologized 3 times, ran to the back, and then spent the rest of the night tiptoeing around his table like a bomb that might go off. I took a step toward them, ready to step in, to save her, to do anything except watch a newcomer be crushed on her first real shift. But Maya didn't move. She held his gaze, not aggressively, just firmly, like 2 hands on a steering wheel in a storm. "We're not you people, sir," she said quietly. "We're people with names, and this is my first week. I won't lie to you and promise something the kitchen can't do, because then we'd both be disappointed. I'll check and I'll do my best, that's what I can promise." Across the room, someone's fork slipped and clattered against a plate. Victor froze at the bar, eyes widening. "You didn't talk to him like that. Not the storm. Not if you liked your job." Keanu's fingers tapped once against the tablecloth. "Is this your idea of good service?" he asked, lecturing the customer about honesty. She shook her head. "My idea of good service is respect, both ways." Something flickered in his eyes at that. Annoyance, yes, but also something darker, older. For a second, it looked like he might stand up and walk out. Instead, he exhaled slowly, annoyed, like every second here was costing him something precious. "You're wasting my time," he said. "Just put the order in and don't say things you don't understand." Maya nodded once, biting down on whatever answer wanted to escape. "I'll be right back with your water," she said. Then she turned and walked away, not rushing, not dragging her feet, just moving with that same fragile steadiness she'd shown when she volunteered for his table. I intercepted her halfway to the kitchen. "Hey," I whispered, "you okay?" Her eyes were bright, but she managed a crooked smile. "He's intense," she breathed, "but I've had worse." "Victor S. going to lose it," I muttered. "You know who that is, right? This guy can destroy places like this with a single interview." "I didn't insult him," she said. "I told him the truth. You can't build a life on being scared of people with money, Daniel." The way she said my name did something weird to my heartbeat. There was no flirt in it, just simple recognition, like I mattered in this story too. She pushed through the kitchen doors and gave the ticket to the head chef. When she explained his order, the chef rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "He thinks this is a lab, not a kitchen," he grumbled, but he started rearranging pans anyway. Everyone had learned that no matter how much they hated his demands, they'd still jump to fulfill them. By the time Maya returned with his water, no ice, 1 perfect lemon slice, the restaurant had grown even louder. A couple of actors I half recognized had arrived, and at least one table was trying, very badly, to snap covert photos of Keanu with their phones. She set the glass down carefully in front of him. "Here you go, sir, fresh lemon as you asked." He picked up the glass, inspected the slice like it was evidence in a crime scene, then took a sip. "No thanks, no nod, just evaluation." Maya didn't move away. She stood there a second longer, watching his face, something stubborn still alive in her eyes. Then very quietly she said, "You know, it doesn't cost anything to be kind." The words were soft, but they carried. I saw at least 3 nearby diners glance over, curiosity sharpening their features. Keanu's hand stopped halfway to the table. The glass touched down harder than it needed to, the water inside shivering. He looked up at her, and this time the anger wasn't bored irritation. It was sudden, bright, dangerous. "You think you know something about cost?" he said, voice low, each syllable precise. "You have no idea what kindness costs." And for the first time that night, there was something in his eyes that looked a little like pain. The room didn't move for a heartbeat after he said it. Even the piano in the corner seemed to hesitate on a note, like the sound itself was listening. Maya's fingers tightened on her pen until it bent. She opened her mouth, then seemed to think better of whatever answer first appeared. When she finally spoke, her voice was careful, like she was stepping between shards of glass. "Maybe I don't," she admitted, "but I know what cruelty costs. I've seen that up close." She held his gaze, not challenging, just refusing to look away. "I don't think you really want to add to that bill." A shadow crossed his features. For a second, the mask slipped and I saw something raw underneath. Sleepless nights, empty hotel rooms, the kind of grief that doesn't respect time zones or success. Then he swallowed it back down so fast it was like it had never been there. "You don't know anything about what I want," he said. "Just bring the food quietly." She nodded once, accepting the line he'd drawn, and turned away. As she walked past me, I caught a quick flash of her profile, eyes shining, jaw tight. She was holding herself together by threads. In the kitchen, the noise swallowed us. Pans clanged, orders were shouted, the printer spat out tickets like a possessed typewriter. Maya handed off another drink order before leaning against the stainless steel counter, closing her eyes for a moment. "You good?" I asked, stepping into the narrow sliver of space beside her. She laughed once without humor. "I keep thinking about my mom," she said. She used to say, "People who scream the loudest are usually the ones trying to drown out their own thoughts." "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "It's supposed to stop me from throwing his water in his face," she replied, and that time the laugh was real. I smiled despite myself. "That would be historic," I said. "Also the last thing you ever did here." She shrugged. "I've been broke before, I can survive it again." Then her eyes softened. "But I really need this job, Daniel." I wanted to tell her I'd protect her, that I'd talk to Victor if anything went too far, but the words felt thin next to her reality. Her mom, her promises, the invisible weight on her shoulders. So I just nodded and said, "Then let's get through tonight, one plate at a time." When the food was ready, we both carried it out together. I set the steak down the way I'd been trained, clock position perfect, knife and fork aligned. Maya placed the salad in front of him, greens exactly as requested, no dressing, no color, just carefully washed leaves that looked as tired as I felt. "If there's anything you'd like changed, I'll be right here," she said. He cut into the steak, inspecting the center. Medium rare, perfect, no complaint, no praise. He took a bite, chewed, swallowed, then tested the salad like it might betray him. Everything was exactly the way he'd demanded. Around us, the restaurant had turned into a stage. Conversations dipped and rose, but always bent back toward table 17. People weren't just eating anymore. They were waiting. Waiting for the famous meltdown, the brutal comment, the story they'd tell friends later about the night they watched a legend be a villain. The universe, apparently, decided to give them something else instead. The flash came from the table by the window. A girl in a bright red dress, phone half hidden behind a wine bottle, snapped a photo with the subtlety of a firework. The light reflected off the wineglass in front of Keanu, splashing his face in white for a split second. He froze. It was like watching an animal hear a trap spring in the dark. His shoulders locked. His hand tightened around his fork until his knuckles went white. Slowly, he turned toward the offender. "Delete that," he said. Not loud, but with a steel that carried to the back wall. The girl giggled, nervously defiant. "It's just a picture," she said. "You're in public, chill, man." Her friends laughed, more at her bravery than at him. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I saw it then. The part of him the internet never got on camera. Not the rude customer, not the tired celebrity, but a man whose life had become a glass box. Every gesture recorded, misunderstood, replayed by strangers who would never pay his price for it. "I said delete it," he repeated, voice lower. The girl rolled her eyes and angled the phone away, fingers moving like she was pretending. "Sure, sure," she said. "Happy now." Maya moved before anyone else could. She stepped slightly between him and the table, not blocking his view, just softening the line of fire. "Excuse me," she said to the girl, her voice calm. "We actually have a policy about taking photos of guests without their permission. I'm going to need you to delete that for real." The girl scoffed. "Are you serious? It's free publicity. You should be thanking me. This place is, like, famous now." "We were doing okay before you got here," I muttered under my breath, but Maya kept her tone even. "We're glad you came," she said, "but he asked you not to take pictures. That should be enough." The girl's smile turned sharp. "What are you, his bodyguard?" she said. "We're paying customers too, or does the celebrity get special rules?" A few other diners shifted uncomfortably. Phones hovered in half-hidden ways. This was how scenes started, the kind that ended up online with dramatic titles and comment sections full of strangers who thought they knew everything. Keanu stood up. The chair scraped back hard enough to make the closest tables jump. He stepped around Maya, eyes on the girl, not raised in threat but heavy with something like exhaustion sharpened into anger. "You don't know what you just took," he said quietly. "You don't know what it's like to walk into a room and feel hands in your pockets every time a lens points your way." The girl's bravado faltered for the first time. "It's just a photo," she repeated, weaker now. "You're rich, you'll live." Maya reached out, fingers lightly brushing his sleeve. "Mr. Reeves," she said gently, "this isn't worth your peace. Let me handle it, okay?" He looked down at her hand like he couldn't quite believe someone had touched him, not to ask for something, not to drag him somewhere, but to calm him. Something in his jaw loosened. "Please," she added, softer. "Sit, eat your steak before it gets cold. I'll talk to them." For a second, I thought he'd pull away. Instead, he let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for years and lowered himself back into his seat. He didn't pick up his fork. He just watched as Maya turned back to the red-dress girl. "Look," Maya said, more tired than angry now. "I get it. You're excited. But he's a person, not a trophy. You wouldn't want someone shoving a camera in your face while you're trying to have dinner with your friends. Just give him this one night. Delete the picture, please." Silence hung for a moment. Then, with a theatrical sigh, the girl unlocked her phone, tapped the screen, and turned it to show Maya. "Happy," she said. The photo disappeared into the trash folder. "Yeah," Maya replied. "Actually, I am, thank you." The tension bled out of the air just a little. Conversations resumed. The piano picked up a new song. Someone at the bar quietly muttered, "Damn," in a tone that was half respect, half relief. Maya came back to the table, heart clearly still racing. "I'm sorry about that," she said to Keanu. "If you want, I can move you to a more private." "Why did you do that?" he interrupted. She blinked. "Do what, my job?" "No," he said. "Stand in front of me like that, talk to them. You could have just walked away. Everyone else does." She thought for a moment, then shrugged lightly. "Where I come from, if you see a fire, you either help put it out or you're part of the problem. Besides, I know what it's like to feel watched when you're just trying to survive." A quick shadow crossed her face, gone almost before it formed. He studied her like she was a puzzle that didn't fit his view of the world. Before he could respond, Victor appeared at my side, his fingers biting into my elbow. "Daniel," he hissed, "kitchen, now bring her." We slipped back through the swinging doors. The second they closed behind us, Victor rounded on Maya, his face flushed a dangerous shade of red. "What was that?" he demanded. "You do not confront other tables when you're serving a VIP. Do you have any idea what could have happened if that turned into a scene? If someone filmed you lecturing a paying customer?" Maya swallowed. "I was trying to protect him," she said. "And the restaurant. If she posted that photo, people would know where he eats. They'd swarm this place." "That is not your call," Victor snapped. "Your job is to smile, take orders, and stay invisible unless spoken to." Invisible, the word hit harder than his volume. I saw Maya flinch like he'd slapped her. With respect, sir, she said quietly. If we were all invisible, nobody would see the good we do either. Victor pinched the bridge of his nose, counting down some silent anger. I don't care how poetic you want to be. You risked a scene with a high-profile guest, and I heard the way you spoke to him earlier. It costs nothing to be kind. He mimicked her words, twisting them. This is not a therapy group, Maya. This is fine dining. I didn't insult him, she protested. You challenged him, Victor cut in. And customers like that don't get challenged here. They get pampered. That's why they come. You want to change the world, volunteer somewhere. You want to stay employed here, you follow the rules. Her jaw trembled. So what are you saying? I'm saying you're done for the night, he said. Clock out. We'll talk tomorrow about whether there is a tomorrow. My chest went cold. Victor, come on, I said. She held it together better than any of us would have. You saw what almost happened out there. She calmed it down, if anything. He turned on me. And you, he snapped. You were supposed to be supervising her. Instead, you let a rookie play hero with one of our most sensitive guests. You think the owner will care that she meant well if we lose $500,000 in bookings because this place goes viral for the wrong reasons. Maya's eyes glossed over, but she refused to let the tears fall. With hands that shook just a little, she started untying her apron. If I go now, she asked quietly, who's going to look after his table? Victor snorted. Anyone but you, I'll send Claire. The knot in her apron came loose. She pulled it off slowly, fingers brushing the small bracelet on her wrist like she was trying to draw courage from it. For a moment she just stood there, holding the crumpled fabric, the dream of this job hanging by the same thin thread as her composure. Leave the apron on my desk, Victor said, turning away. And Maya, this city is full of people who'd kill for your spot, remember that. She inhaled shakily, lifted her chin and nodded. I know, she whispered. That's why I fought for it. She took one step toward the manager's office. That won't be necessary. The voice came from the doorway to the kitchen, low but unmistakable. We all turned at once. Keanu Reeves stood there, one hand on the doorframe, eyes flicking from Victor to Maya to the apron clutched in her hands. The chaos of the kitchen seemed to dim around him. If she goes, he said calmly, you're going to have a much bigger problem than a deleted photo.